All right, we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy that you are joining us today. Welcome to our Champ Chat program where we talk about all things related to people and culture. We're here once a month. Our topic today is empowering conversations on DEI. And you know what? It occurred to me. Some people still don't know what DEI means. So I'm going to spell it out: diversity, equity, and inclusion. So happy that you're here to join us today. I want to welcome our audience. Audience, we want you to let us know you're here. Let us know you're here in the comment section. Put your name, where you're coming in from. And as we go through the program, we want you to ask us questions and give us some comments as we're going through the program. My name is Michelle Beauchamp, by the way. My company is called the Champ Group, where I partner with companies and their leaders to help them work on their people skills so that their people can feel like they belong, feel valued, and thrive. And I'm excited that you are here today. So, again, audience, I want you to chime in and let us know you're here. And I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. We know that there's a lot that you could have done today, and you chose to be with us. So, what I want to do is ask our guests to give a brief introduction about themselves. And we're going to get started with more information about this very sensitive, very important topic called DEI. But we are having empowering conversations because our intent is to break the barriers. So, Linnell, I'm going to start with you. Can you give our audience a little bit of an idea? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So thank you, Michelle, for doing this and bringing this conversation forward. I really do think, as we've talked about, that it's important that this conversation is not divisive. There's plenty of that going on, but it's inclusive. So thank you for that. Once again, my name is Linnell Green. I am a corporate trainer and executive coach. My background is in accounting and finance. I work for an international CPA firm and also treasurer of a public company. And I have over 10,000 hours of leadership training that I've done for many companies. And I love it. I mean, my joy is that I want the leaders that I have the opportunity to interact with to embrace what I call the CEO mindset, to expand their leadership, to improve their resilience, and ultimately be transformative leaders. So that's what brings me joy, and what I have the privilege of doing every day.
Awesome. Thank you. And you said 10,000 hours. So you remember when we have 10,000 hours, we got it down. We're good at it. Thank you, Linnell, for saying yes. Greg, I see you next.
Pleasure.
Hi, I'm Greg Jenkins, and Michelle, thanks so much for having us on. Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Greg Jenkins Consulting LLC, and I work in that space where I provide coaching and mentorship and leadership training and development. I suppose if you could sum it up into a metaphor, I'm standing on the intersection of the two streets, leadership and DEI. And I think, like Linnell talks about, leadership is an absolutely important component, and DEI is an important component of leadership. And so I work with organizations all around the world, and predominantly in the US and North America. And I'm just glad to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have Gloria, who said, hello, Greg. And we have Eleanor here. And look what Eleanor says. I'm happy to attend the conversation as I need to know more about DEI. Well, Eleanor, you are in the right place. And breaking barriers is her tagline. So there you go.
Good to see Gloria and Eleanor here. Glad they're
Awesome.
here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Bernadette.
All
Tell
right.
us.
Hi. Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm just going to repeat that. This is a great
Yeah.
conversation. Thanks for it, for the invitation. And my name is Bernadette Jones. I am the CEO and co-founder of Vision Over HR Consulting and Training. And I've been navigating the world of HR and work for over 20 years, focusing on creating intentionally inclusive workplaces. So whether it's in the nonprofit sector or the corporate world, I'm all about bringing culture first solutions to the table. My journey has taken me through various roles, from leading HR committees for nonprofit boards to spearheading DEIB initiatives with Northern California SHRM. So I'm passionate about making or ensuring that HR practices are intentionally inclusive and diverse. And I love to mix things up with our trainings, our workshops, especially our Respecting the Workplace Starts With Me series. And that's a series where we dive deep into compliance and culture, and in a way that's engaging and it's also impactful. So that's just a little bit about me, but I'm here to share, learn, and grow with everyone here. So I just say, let's make the world of work a better place, one culture first solution at a time.
All right. Well, I love it. See, audience, you are happy that you are here today. You are happy that you are here today. And I'm just going to do a run through of a few things we're going to talk about. Okay, so it's February. Today's February 13th, which means it is Black History Month. Some people wonder, why do we need to acknowledge Black History Month? I'm going to make it simple because it matters. Because there are so many people who have made a significant impact on our lives, no matter what color or nationality we are, right? Or what culture we belong to. It is all important. So that's one thing. And then there are so many hot topics centered around DEI right now. So Eleanor, when you say you want to learn more about it, you are in the right place. So we're going to cover some of the topics that are going on right now. Even one, which still blows my mind, is that one of the persons who's running for president actually said that America has never been a racist country. So there's a lot going on. And then, oh my goodness, as I was doing some more research, 17 states right now, 17 states have pending laws preventing universities from DEI, using DEI, educating about DEI, anything like that. And when I was preparing this, I had to remind myself to breathe. Breathe, Michelle. Breathe, Michelle. It'll be okay. And then what we're wondering about is the impact of what's going on in universities, the Supreme Court ruling from last year about affirmative action. How is that impacting the private industry? What are we finding? Are we finding that they're stepping back on their commitment to DEI, which they were really committed to? So just recent as a couple of years ago, I said Linnell's nodding her head. So we want to talk a little bit of that. What is that impact? And there are other things. I mean, can you believe it? Even rulings about hairstyles. Next week, there's a case in Texas where the young man was suspended from school because his hairstyle didn't match and align with the rules of the school. So he's not been able to come to school for many months now, and that's actually going to court. This is in Texas. That's actually going to court next month. And I can't believe this. My son Evan told me that there's a ruling now in the NFL, so sports and the NFL, the Rooney Law, which before came together because it said minority coaches need to have teams need to be able to give at least one minority coach an opportunity to interview. So that's being called as reverse discrimination. And there's a lot, and on and on and on. So, got to take a breath there. There's a lot. So I'm going to start with Bernadette, because we said we want to conduct empowering conversations. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be silent. We don't want to act like put it under the rug because it's happening. So how can we conduct empowering conversations amongst this rising discord?
Yes, I think that's an important question. So conducting or having these empowering conversations with the discord is important, and it requires a thoughtful and a strategic approach. First, we have to acknowledge the resistance that we've just been talking about, and at the same time, encourage inclusive and constructive dialogue. So I think the first step is to set clear intentions or clarify your objectives. So what is the goal of the DEI conversation that you want to have? Mm-hmm. Make it known what the purpose is. It's to promote understanding, growth, and a more inclusive culture. So not to assign or create blame. So clear objectives and intentions. Then I think the second step is really about presenting the facts. So we can use data to highlight the importance of DEI efforts. As we were talking a little bit earlier, include research about the effectiveness of DEI, how teams are more innovative. They perform better financially when they're more diverse. So data can depersonalize that conversation. Mm-hmm. When you focus on and help you to focus on shared beliefs and DEI initiatives versus individuals. And then once you understand that you present those facts or that data, understand that there will be resistance. Mm-hmm. So now it's time to listen and then understand where is the resistance coming from. Mm-hmm. Is it a fear of change, misunderstanding of what DEI is? And you mentioned earlier when we were chatting that some people don't really know what the definition of DEI is. What is that? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So some people misunderstand what those goals are. They may feel excluded from the conversation. So doing an accurate diagnosis using that data allows for more targeted responses to that resistance. And then the second step is really about now that there's resistance. Mm-hmm. What are the barriers?
I like that you said expect it so you're not surprised. Be ready, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, be ready for it. And then identify what are the barriers. So part of that resistance is about there's barriers there. Maybe those barriers are systemic barriers, and those barriers may prevent participation into the career progression. So data again is very powerful. Using that as a tool for those discussions. So when we include data, we can ground ourselves in reality, not just perceptions or anecdotes. So, for instance, if we're discussing career progression and the barriers for underrepresented groups, look at the numbers. How many individuals from those groups are in leadership roles? What does turnover look like? So data helps us to identify those patterns and then prioritize the areas that we need to intervene for interventions. So when we're doing that, we can encourage these discussions about bias, because now we've looked at some of those systemic barriers, perhaps. It's in a non-judgmental way, focus on process and systems rather than focusing on individuals. Yeah, so when you see those barriers, you've removed some of the barriers, so now you have to rebuild your processes. And that means the processes now are going to ensure fairness and objectivity. For example, you standardize meeting protocols so everyone has a voice and is heard. That creates transparency. And creating transparency, say, around promotions. Who gets the promotion? How does that happen? That can demonstrate practical steps being taken towards inclusion. And then finally, you want to set metrics, have clear goals and metrics. How do we measure whether or not what we're doing is working? That may be climate surveys. It may be surveys and assessments to see if what we're doing is really working. Talk to the people that are actually doing the work and see whether or not they really see those changes. So by applying these strategies, you can really have constructive dialogue. Even with the discord, you can share understandings and practical steps to move forward.
That's a lot, Bernadette.
That was a lot. I said it fast. I had to get it out.
I hope you all are taking notes. By the way, this is recorded, so you could go back and watch it again because we're getting some tools. But here's the thing, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but see, we want to help people understand more, increase awareness. And you said you want to make sure everybody's heard and understood. And I'm just sharing you. We got a really engaged audience. So audience, thank you so much. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing some things that that they're saying. And so again, audience, I really want to thank you. It's not reverse discrimination, it's inclusion expansion. All right, Gloria, exactly. Excellent points. All right. So we're so happy that our audience is here with us. And Bernadette, so you gave a lot.
Yeah.
And thank you for that, because it's a big conversation. And what I'm going to do, just to, was there anything at the last minute you want? Because we're going to come back. And what I want to do is I want to come to Greg now and find out and talk a little bit more about how we can engage others to represent diversity. And here's the thing, this was interesting. So Greg and I have met through LinkedIn, right? Networking through LinkedIn. And what I am always grateful about is that Greg is a white male. I mean, there's 3 Black women and 1 white male here, right? And I saw an article after Greg had said yes already, that the way that we can really make a difference with this DEI, not only conversation, but action, is to include white males. So Greg, thank you. And what's your experience? How can we engage others who represent diversity, right? And I know you are a veteran and have a lot of passion about that. You do a lot of DEI training and leadership training. So what can we do to engage other people?
Yeah, great question. And so if you're the individual, and sometimes you're the only individual that's working the diversity piece of an organization, and if that's you, if you're in the audience today during live or you're watching this on a recording, I understand what that's like, as I was that person too once. And that can be a pretty lonely place to be. And, I never would have found myself in the DEI space unless the Army would have forcefully suggested that I get interested in it really quickly. And so I kind of went into this, kicking and screaming a little bit because, I'm an older white straight male and, what is DEI? I don't understand it. And why is this for me? Maybe this is a punishment. But long story short, I quickly understood the value of DEI and became an advocate. For those of you that are working in the space, I think it might be helpful to understand just how important your role is. And I really want to quote my very good friend, Miss Bernadette Jones, who has said, you either have a great culture or you have a compliant culture.
Mm-hmm.
And compliance cultures aren't that much fun. You're just going to work and you're moving the levers and the switches and you're making the widgets and you're really not that engaged. But if we're in a great culture, in an inclusive culture, a culture where, like my good friend Gloria Cotton would say, where you are welcomed, you are respected, you are valued, and you are heard. That's a definition that I use as for a great culture. And I think for the diversity representatives out here, understand just how important that is. Do you understand what the business case for your organization is? Can you align the value of DEI to the bottom line of the organization? I think that's really, really important, because sometimes I think, because there's a misunderstanding of what DEI is, and I was one of those people at once, I didn't understand that value. And I think if I could sum it up into one way, I think the biggest thing that I learned about DEI and its value was it helped me become a better leader, helped me become a better team builder. Once I understood more about my own self, it helped me to understand others that I was working with. And so when I went through that process in the United States Army, I look back and thought to myself, wow, after 20 years of being in leadership positions, this made me even better. And I think maybe for those diversity representatives with us today, maybe there's an avenue in to talk about or discuss or illustrate how we can help build better leaders and better team builders by using DEI skills. Because I think, let's face it, DEI skills are a component of leadership skills. They're not the only ones, but they're a very important component of those leadership skills. And I think that's the message that I would like to send. And, also, last thing, one more thing is find other people, find other DEI representatives. There's the Inclusion Allies Coalition. Michelle, you're a great example of bringing people together. There are other resources like that around, within the world and within the nation, and various organizations, as represented by Bernadette and Linnell here as well. So, you're doing good work, and there are those of us that are supportive of you, and we're here to connect with you too.
Yeah, see, we're so happy that everybody's here today. And those are great. Let's see. I want to show this comment. Greg just explicit from Barbara Ann. Barbara Ann, thank you. Barbara Ann, she's an ally for sure. She's with us on these champ chats so much, and she brings so much value. Greg just explained why I lead with fixing a culture before moving forward to bringing in new diverse clients. All right, Barbara Ann. All right. Yeah, Greg. So thank you so much. And we mentioned Gloria too. And I love Gloria said it's not reverse discrimination. It's inclusion expansion. Exactly. So we love that. Now, Linnell, see, audience, we got some great guests on here. I know it. I'm so happy that they agreed. Linnell. So Greg mentioned a little bit, Bernadette mentioned a little bit, because we have enough evidence. It's kind of like, duh, we know that it makes a difference, but help us understand, what's your perspective about why are we having so much resistance when we have enough evidence that it's important to continue to grow in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging?
Yeah, that's great. And just thank you, Greg and Bernadette. You guys both laid this amazing foundation for perspective and context, because I do believe context is decisive. And when people are actually resisting something that's helpful, it's like they don't want to eat their vegetables. It's kind of like that. Because with my background in accounting and finance and tax in particular, when I do leadership training, the financial impact of leadership is a big component of what I bring forward. So if we think about CEOs are very focused, of course, on their bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the CEO mindset, I say you can bring the CEO mindset from the laundry room to the boardroom. So everybody in the organization can bring the CEO mindset forward. So if we look at it from that vantage point, I'm the CEO. I want my profitability to increase. I want to improve my position in the marketplace. I want to have new products and services that are competitive, that can also reach my current clients and also emerging markets, right? So let's say I want all of that as a CEO. So wherever you are in the organization, you can bring that CEO mindset and say, how can I fulfill on my KPIs. Everybody has them if they're in management at all. They're key performance indicators. How can I do that? And DEI is fundamental to that. It's not like a side issue or
Right.
some marketing ploy or
Right.
some box to check in my goals for the year. So
Right.
there were a couple of studies that I wanted to bring forward. So McKinsey did a study, right? And in their Diversity Matters report, they basically brought all the data. They talked to thousands of companies and came back and said, as they analyzed that data across various industries and regions, they found that companies with more diverse executive teams tend to have higher financial returns. So even if you don't care about having a diverse culture, a diverse team, but if you care about the bottom line, then it's just smart to do it for that reason, even if that's the only reason. I don't think it should be, but if that's all you got,
Right.
take it. I mean, and then the Boston Consulting Group, they also did this study on exploring the link between diversity and innovation. And they found that companies with more diverse leadership teams, they're more innovative and they generate higher revenue from new products and services.
Wow.
And this innovation premium really does directly impact and contribute to improved profitability over time. And I think that's the other thing that we can get ourselves into what's happening in 2024. But if we look at the impact of DEI over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and we look at our customer base, then it's just irresponsible not to have teams that reflect your customers, that are tuned in to what your customers want and are bringing innovative products and services that will satisfy the needs of your customers. Just smart business at the end of the day.
Yeah. And those studies are, I mean, you know, and it's that's information that we know. And thank you for sharing those studies. So here's my question, because we're going to kind of open it up now to overall strategies that are working and strategies that aren't, because here's my point. I mean, there's so much resistance right now, as we know. I mean, my mind is blown with all the resistance going on. What do you think? What do any of you and each of you think that we can do as consultants, as coaches, and what can employees do? What can we have several coaches on here with us. What can we do to help businesses know that it's going to be smart for, even if they don't care about the moral part, which hopefully they do, but even if they don't, if it's only the bottom line, what can we do to help these leaders understand that this was not something that was important in 2020 and 2021 and is not important anymore? It's as important as ever. And let's just say there is a lot more to DEI than race and gender. Now, race tends to be the one that's really attacked right now. But, you know, gender, I mean, next month we're going to be talking about Women's History Month, right? Because women still make less than men. So what can we do to help businesses understand the value of DEI overall? What do y'all think?
Well, I'll just jump in and say one of the ways that I think is very helpful, particularly now with this battle for talent, and to have people to come in to work. I deal with clients all the time that are trying to hire and having difficulty. The more diverse you are, the more welcoming you are. It is the candidates market now, and they decide where they want to go. And if I go to a website and I look at About Us and there's no diversity,
right,
that's probably not some place that I want to spend my time applying at. I may apply somewhere else. So I think that's a big piece of that is your team reflective, again, like Linnell brought out, is it reflective of your customer base? And if not, that's going to be a challenge. So that's one way I think is a good way to kind of switch the conversation with leaders that may not really, be so inclined to talk about DEI.
Right. And, kind of, let me ask you all this too, because, in 2020 and 2021, so many companies were making these statements and putting the statements on their websites. Right. And then, so what do you think? What happened to those? What happened? Did they take the statements off? My finding is that the statements are still there, but the action is not as much. Right. So I'd love to talk about that too.
Well, I think it was treated as a response to what was going on culturally, and they felt that they needed to say something, that silence was
Yeah.
not golden.
Right.
But you can look at the programs and what they fundamentally did after that. And what I tell people, if they want to know whether a company cares, look at how they're resourcing it. If they have 80,000 employees and they have one DEI director, they don't really care. That's a
Right.
token
Right.
position. So
Right.
you really can look at how they resource it, because what we have discovered in especially the last 12 months, is they've started pulling back their budgets,
Right.
closing some of those departments, or merging them with other departments so that their
Right.
impact and influence is diminished. So if somebody's looking to see, do you care, then are you spending money on it? Because companies spend money on things they care about. And if you're trying to influence a leader, they have to resource that area in order for it to really make a difference.
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast that it was a HBR podcast this morning, where companies are wondering, should we still make comments about what's going on? I mean, there's a lot, and there's Israel and Gaza. There's a lot, right? And companies are just not sure exactly what they should say or do. So they're choosing to say nothing, which when we think about the generations, we know Gen Z is expecting their companies to represent what's going on, right? So there's so much. I mean, I know we have only a few minutes left, but I'd love to keep talking about this. And I sent you, Sayoko, hope I said that right. She said, Linnell, right on. And Mary put in a few comments. So our audience has been so engaged. Let's see.
I'd like to add one more thing too, and I know we're running short. I think a brief history lesson is important for companies to understand. The literal motto of the United States is "E pluribus unum," which is Latin for "out of many one." That's the motto. It's on a lot of our money. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. This isn't like 10 years ago. This is, over the course of the history of our country. President Truman signing Executive Order 9981, integrating the military services, Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So, yes, it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens, and we have a history of it from the beginning of our country up to this point here, where this matters. We are a changing demographic. We always have been. We are today.
Yeah.
We have been diverse. We are diverse, and we're going to get more diverse.
Right.
So I think we need to just face the realities that this is what this is who we are, and this is where we're going, and that's why DEI is such an important component of business in our world today.
100%. I'm glad you said that. We got audience. Thank you. Here's something to LinkedIn user in terms of the current resistance, generally working and not working, and what's going on in the world. I'd love to know what the panel thinks about the movement we are seeing to include justice into the DIB structure. So justice, or swapping it instead of belonging with DIJ. There's so much. Thank you, LinkedIn user, for that comment. Also, another term is access. That's another one that's included. There's a lot. So y'all have any thoughts about that? We have about 2 minutes left.
I kind of think there's so many different words that apply. So I think focusing on the main concept, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, every year it could be a different acronym. It could be something else that's added. But I think the thought and the intention is the point. And that's why I always talk about intentional inclusion. So it's not just diversity for the sake of diversity, it's inclusion. So if you're inclusive in being inclusive intentionally, then all those other things, are justice, access, all of those things will come into play because you're being inclusive and you're including everyone.
Right. See, we have such good conversation. And golly, I want to share our slide, and I'm going to ask another question. But Gloria, we need more courage. Oh my goodness, Gloria. Amen, sister. Amen. It takes courage to deal with things that make people uncomfortable, because we grow when we're uncomfortable, don't we? Oh my goodness. So with the little bit of time we have left, I want to go around and for like 15 seconds, panel, my word for the year is elevate and then celebrate. So, in 15 seconds, can you share what is it that you are working on elevating this year, Greg?
My message to myself and to those people out there in the field doing the good DEI work: be consistent and be persistent.
Okay. Yeah. Consistent and pursue. Okay, awesome. Thank you. How about you, Linnell?
Well, I think at the end of the day, there's always going to be something that's not working in the world, always, until we die and breathe our last breath. So I really am continuing to remind people to elevate their joy, elevate their own responsibility, what they can be responsible for. And at the end of the day, really look to see what difference they can make between now and the day that they breathe their last breath. Because that
Amen. Got a lot of amens going on here. Thank you. Bernadette, how about you? Then I want to show the slide of our contact information.
Well, what I'm elevating this year with my clients is being intentional.
Okay.
Be intentionally inclusive. Be intentional about your strategies, your processes. Just don't put it in place because it works. Be intentional about it.
There you go. Thank you. So, audience, we thank you so much for the amazing input that you provided today. I know you got some value. I got some value. We talked about learning and growing together, and that's what we did. Maybe you heard something and you want to be able to get in touch with us, and we want to encourage you to do that. So take a quick picture of the slide here so you can reach out to Bernadette, to Linnell and Greg and myself. And with that, I am going to thank you for joining us. And I want to ask you to join us again next month, March the 19th, where we're going to be talking about issues evolving and revolving around Women's History Month. And with that, I will end it because I want to be respectful of your time. And so I will end the call. Thank you so much. Be sure and comment and spread the word about what you learned today on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.